When I was 7 years old, and it was the first day of school, I had my piggy tails ready to go, but internally, the only thing I remember was being so scared. I was so frightened when I stepped into the classroom. I remember all the other children were running around, getting to know each other, and I went to hide. I went to hide underneath the desk. Little Iida, hiding. That's the only thing I remember from my first day of school. So fear has really been the central theme in my life. And so then, obviously, I got interested in safety. How could I create safety within myself so that I could be all that I am and share my gifts with the world? And how can we create safety within our connections, within our relationships to others, whether it be at home or at work? And so I became a psychologist, and now I am specialized in training executives, teams, leaders on how do we create cultures of psychological safety where people can really feel safe and thrive. And the most eye-opening thing for me in all this exploration, both personal and professional, on safety has been that it turns out that it is the same emotion that, when dysregulated, creates the unsafety, the threat, that which we have had to fear. Somebody in an unregulated state being overtly aggressive or passively aggressive, right? It is the same emotion that is responsible for protection and safety. And that is anger. So what we know is that actually the adaptive function of anger is to protect. Right? So if somebody were to be hurting or harming someone else, it is anger. That it is our ability to assert, our ability to cut, and our ability to stop comes from integrated anger. And so integrated anger looks like assertiveness when assertiveness is needed, and clarity of boundaries. So a clear yes and a clear no. Our ability to stand up for ourselves and stand up for other people. And when our boundaries are clear, we are okay with someone having an uncomfortable emotion, and we don't try to make that emotion go away by me abandoning my needs, me saying yes when I actually wanted to say no, so that the other person doesn't have the uncomfortable emotion. Who notices themselves from that, right? And so clarity of boundaries really allows us to also keep connected to ourselves when we are with others. And because of that, because of I can trust that I will not abandon my needs when I'm with others, we can feel safe. We can relax. And we can enjoy others without constantly being on hold. And so healthy anger comes from a place of same as. It's not hateful, it's not spiteful, it's not I'm better than you and then coming down, looking down at you with contempt. Nor is it dropping down into less than and then putting the other person on the pedestal. And now I'm resentful of that person. Healthy anger requires us to be anchored straight in our worthiness. Not above, not below, directly in the center. And often, what my story was I didn't used to feel anger at all. So I thought, well, that's great. Are we supposed to, be peaceful, compassion, everything? I think that was a great thing. But then I noticed, actually, I do feel anger. But the anger is directed at myself. I always feel guilty. It's always my fault. I feel self-hate, self-blame was running rampant. And so the important thing to remember is when anger is not in the use of assertiveness and protecting our boundaries, it always goes somewhere. Either one up into contempt and hatefulness towards others, or into turns against yourself, into self-hate, into putting yourself down. And so how do we really find that place of healthy anger? And why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to keep our boundaries? We've heard all the things. Yes, we need to be assertive. Yes, we need to, have balanced boundaries. But why is it so hard? Why it's so hard is because when we have been on the receiving end, experiencing end of the destructive anger, when we have had to fear and be scared, what happens is when we have those kind of experiences in our histories, as every one of us has to some degree, what that creates internally is a shutdown. In those situations, we have had to shut down, freeze. And the protective anger is stuck in our body in that situation. Because in those situations, when we were a child, it wouldn't have been safe to have that protective boundary. So we've had to shut it down. And so now you're trying to practice saying no, you're trying to practice being assertive, but you lose your voice or you shut down. It's because the body will remember what was. And so we need to, in order to work with this, we need to go back in time a little bit to those moments where we would have needed that protection when that protection wasn't there, to get a corrective experience and see what it's like to actually access the protection in ourselves. And so we held a workshop with my colleague, and what we did in this workshop, where I want to invite you all into, was to explore how do we find in our body this healthy anger, which is the source of assertiveness and boundaries. And so what we did is we took a chair. You see the chair, right? You see the chair. So we took a chair, and in this chair, we said to imagine the little girl, the little boy, the little child that has had to fear, that has had some experience where they have had to be scared. And from this direction comes the threat, whatever it may have been. It may have been the caretaker, the parent, the mother, father, maybe a schoolmate or a sibling sometimes, who has been unpredictable or shouting or very intense. Anyway, something that was too much for the child in that moment. We all have these experiences to different extent. And so let's And I said, let's practice. Let's practice protective. What would it be like to protect this little child? And I asked, is there somebody in the workshop that would like to sit in the chair and access that part of themselves and try it out, see what it would be like to be protected? And then a man came over, he sat in the chair. And now in the chair is the little boy who had to take responsibility way too early, had to fend for himself, the most precious, most sensitive, most vulnerable, that who would have deserved all the safety and all the protection that there is, the most innocent child. And from this direction, the threat. And this is now healthy anger that should have been there, the protection, the adult protecting. And then I did full defense forward for this little being. And tears were running down this man's face, as was probably everybody in the workshop, to get that experience that somebody was there, to get that experience of, for once, being protected. And then I asked if there was anybody else in the workshop that would like to try what it is like to be protected. There were so many people that we ran out of chairs. Not one chair was not enough. So we had to get more chairs. And we took all the chairs that we had in the room, made a line, and all the people came to sit. And then I asked if there was somebody who would like to protect with me, access in themselves for the little child in them or for another, what it's like, what it feels like to have that strength of the protective anger. And so many people came that we had a line of defense. And some people imagined themselves in the chair as a child, as a younger them, and some people practice what it's like to defend another. And for some people, I said to really feel what it would be like in your body. What is in your body, the protective that you would have needed? Is it the enough? Or is it more that? Or for some, it was more what in your body would have been in that situation? What would have been needed? For some, it's just a peaceful no. And so everybody felt what was it for them? And we did full protection forward for those most sensitive, most valuable parts. And then I asked, should we try those that identify as men to come and protect? And then I asked if there was any women who wanted to be protected. And there was not a single woman in the workshop that did not want to go and have the experience of what it's like to be protected. So we had 70 women. Imagine 70 people. It's probably 70. It's a huge crowd. Sitting on the floor, because obviously chairs ran out. And then we had the full line of people doing the protection. And the defense went forward. And so then the workshop continued. We had all different possible dynamics that we did. It was one of the most powerful depictions of embodying that strength, that assertiveness in your body that I have experienced in my life. And so, internal safety that we need in order to be able to create safe, peaceful connections with one another does not come from turning a blind eye to anger. It comes from finding the right relationship to it. And so protective anger, what it is it's really simultaneously a clear no to that which is harmful, that which is hurtful, and a resounding yes to yourself, to your expression, and towards a vibrant life where you really feel like you are alive. And so it's protection that healthy anger brings is what brings us internal safety. And when we feel safe, that is when we can rest, that is when we can play, and that is when we can create. And that is the kind of life that I wish for every single person here today. Thank you so much.